Everybody, it's Eric live alongside Rod with our Oregon post-game show presented by Fanduel Sportsbook, your go-to source for betting on the sports you love to watch. Whether it's a parlay or you just want to bet the money line, you'll find all the odds you need at Fanduel app. Easy to download. You can get started right away. Big thanks to Terry Mort, who sent a gift to the show via Venmo with the message, "This is NIL money for Eric and Rod." Thanks a lot, Terry. And know that your gift will be used to get a really good mid-major video editor. If you want to support the show like Terry, head on over to our support page at tffinots.com/support to find the necessary links for one-time gifts, either via PayPal or Venmo, or recurring support in Patreon or Substack. Those, of course, will give you access to ad-free versions, audio versions of the show. Well, Rod, Michigan State did what it needed to do and completed a perfect West Coast trip by toppling the Ducks 68-52. It's far from a pretty game for the Spartans, but as they say, I guess they got the job done. Michigan State never really got their offense working until mostly about halfway through the second half. They only led by 2 at the half, 28-26, but trailing by 5 in the second half. I think is their biggest deficit, which was pretty short-lived. Then they went a big run, kind of seemed to wear Oregon down as we've seen them do to a number of teams recently. And then I think with Michigan State up 46-41, then they just kind of blitzed Oregon. I think they finished a 22-11 run to ice the Ducks and head home to East Lansing for a game against Maryland. Of individual note, Jaxon Kohler continued to struggle from the field. Didn't make any threes, and I think just had 2 points or so. Carson Cooper had a career high of 19 points, go along with his 7 boards. And Coen Carr hit 3 triples. Finished with 15 points, an impressive 8 rebounds, one of them offensive. And really, I think the biggest thing for the game, I think that I came up with is that was a Coen Carr. Just you forgot about his athleticism and how he can just really just take over, dominate a game. Is that one rebound he had, which is just a defensive rebound. It was nothing like special in some ways. It was where he fell and it looked like he was going to lose control, but he's so much like balance and stuff. He managed to somehow leap out of nowhere, get the rebound, and then without traveling, it was pretty incredible. That just sort of like and he did all that without any dunks today.
Yeah, I this was a very strange game in this sense, and some of it you kind of touched on in a way. You feel like they're not playing well offensively, and they shot 57% from the floor, 35% from 3, which is not brilliant, but certainly good enough. It's pretty much right at their average.
Yeah, right.
So, Tom Izzo was complaining defensively about as much as I can recall in any recent game. Oregon scores 52 points. They shoot 39%, so sub 40% from the floor. It felt like MSU was being fast and loose with the ball. They had 12 turnovers. Not brilliant, not like they played against Washington, but not terrible. The world wasn't falling in on them. It was a strange, and even individuals, it felt like for probably 3/4 of the night at least, that Jeremy Fears was having one of his roughest games in a while, maybe since December. You look up, he ends up with 14 points, 5 assists, 0 turnovers, 2 steals and a block. And he was the guy putting the hammer down when they made that run you mentioned.
Yeah.
That was as much him as anybody.
Well, I would just say quickly, when it comes to Jeremy Fears that game, 2 points in the first half, 1 for 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, right. No free throw attempts, 1 assist, 1 block, played 17 minutes. So it's not like he wasn't on the court. Yeah. That's why he just felt so like discombobulated. And I guess frankly, that's why the offense looked kind of funny too.
And they didn't, there were at least 3 times I recall, as I kept track, where Jeremy Fears, any other game this season, would have drawn a foul in the lane, which we know is a big part of his game. And it wasn't called, and so it ends up in a missed shot. Right. But they were plays that, frankly, he should have gone to the line in all of them. And he didn't get any of them. So he should have had 6 more free throws at least than he had. But that crew was just, and it's rare. I'm not going to complain about it too much because on balance, I'd rather them let teams play, but they let a lot, especially with Jeremy, they let a lot of stuff go. And I know he can be difficult to officiate because let's be honest. I mean, he plays his game trying to bait people.
He's a little floppy,
right? Yeah. But I can't think of many situations where there's no contact on those plays. It's just
that's true. Like that,
he
like
makes sure
offensive foul he kind of drew, against the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, he
makes
down.
sure that it gets called, right?
Exactly.
Which is look, it's part of the game. It's a gift. It's an art. So anyway, but I just say that to get at this idea that it felt like, and of course we all know in the back of our minds, Oregon is very, very underpowered depleted right now.
Right. Yeah.
With those guys out. And so you have this thought that, well, you should run these guys out of the gym. I think in the end, I don't recall what the line was.
It was it started at 9, which is kind of what we predicted, and then I think it moved up to 10. I think is last.
Okay, so they easily covered.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought so with 7 minutes to go.
And that's the thing. It's like, are we really supposed to get upset over a 16-point win on the road? I don't think so. So it was just a weird game in a lot of ways, and but a win. And up until they kind of dropped the hammer, my thought was, well, it's a Tuesday night in the Big Ten on the road, because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
We've seen 200 games like this, where I have at least, where you're playing a team that you feel like you ought to handle, even on the road, but it's on the road. They get some guys hitting shot. I mean, the kid that went 2 for 4 from 3 in the first half, is it Simpkins, who has shot the ball well on the season, but he was in like a 2 for 20 run, something abysmal. And he goes out and hits 2 for 4 in the first half. They had some guys hitting shots that you didn't necessarily expect them to hit. But that's life in the Big Ten on the road. No matter who you're playing, you will have nights like that, even against teams that are not your equal, where they're just it's gonna be ugly, and they're gonna hit some slop that they don't typically hit, and you're gonna miss good shots, and it's gonna be way tighter than you expected it to be or think it should be. And so the objective in those nights is Al Davis, just win, baby. That's all it is.
Right.
And that, in the end, they didn't just do that. They dropped the hammer out. I will remind people that the greatest team in college basketball history on the weekend struggled to beat them by 10.
Right.
And so, if we're going to play the comparative scores game on the Pacific Northwest trip, that's Michigan State plus 13 for those keeping track at home. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it was impressive, obviously, for Michigan State in that sense. And, just look at, as you mentioned, sort of the middle of the season, this seems to be the time when weird things happen in the Big Ten. I mean, Iowa almost lost at home to Rutgers, which is kind of a bizarre game too. So there were some good things about this game, although, collectively, I felt like the team, I don't feel like there's a lot of growth. However, individually, there's some really big things. Like, that's the thing. Like, you get lost in it. Cooper, Carr, and Fort. Let's talk about those three in whatever order you want to, because I think those are the three kind of storylines in this.
I would absolutely agree, along with the way Jeremy closed the game.
Sure. But he's kind of done that, so that's something new.
Right. We're not surprised by that. We can start with Coen. You texted me that, boy, you almost forget how good he was in the NCAA tournament last year, and that he's had some good games, but this is maybe the first time this season that we've seen that Coen, and I would agree. He impacted the game every way you can.
Yeah.
Look, the 3 triples are great for his confidence, right? And he also hit a 2-point jumper. So that's great to see, but that's the way he was attacking the rim, the way that he made plays for others. That drive and drop off to Cooper was fantastic. and then the defensive plays that he made. And he's been very good lately defensively. So I just think overall, that's his best game of the season. I don't think there's much doubt about that. And it was great to see. And I agree with what you texted me. That's the Coen Carr that we saw in the tournament. That's the Coen Carr that people thought might, would be the reason why this might be his last year at Michigan State, right?
Right.
Because you thought you would see that more frequently. We haven't seen it more frequently yet, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see it more often going down the stretch. We just got done talking about that remember, people, this time last year, Jace Richardson had not yet started a game.
He was just a guy.
He started, his first start was that 29-point game, ironically enough, since we're talking about this, against Oregon, after they got back from that 0-2 West Coast trip.
Yeah.
That was his first start. And that was really the day when he started to become the guy who wasn't just a solid, 10, 11, 12 points a night, but 18, 19, 20 a night. It was a different deal. And so my point in saying that is there's a lot that can develop between now and March. And one thing that absolutely could develop is Coen Carr showing off this kind of all-around play more consistently.
Yeah.
So you'd start with him.
Yeah, and I would add just with Carr, the 2 blocks as well.
Well, that's
3
what I mean.
assists, no turnovers. Yeah. I mean, he had
was both solid defensively and loud, which don't always go together.
Right. The only thing you'd say negative, 0 for 3 from the line. I just don't, he was so good.
It's weird
during most of last year, and then kind of the end of last year, he sort of tailed off a teeny bit, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's one of those things.
Criticism.
He's just got to fight through it because there are going to be a lot more free throws coming. I know that.
I think it's more important that he hit the threes from a confidence standpoint because I feel like the free throws will come if he's hitting the three. If he's
it's all got to be there. I mean, the free throws are a constant because of the nature of the way he plays. He's going to shoot free throws every game. At least what I haven't looked to see what he's averaging, but I got to think tonight was at least an average night for him in attempts, maybe even a tick below. So you got to do better. He's barely over 50% on the year. You got to.
Oh, I know. I just think that the threes sort of like suggest that the free throws will come along, but that could be, the threes are also fool's gold too, possibly, right?
You might be right. It's usually the other way. We look for free throw shooting to come, which leads to 3-point shooting. But, the fact is, as you said, we saw him do it last year.
Yeah.
So there's no reason in the world why he can't still do it. But yeah, I'm with you. The jumpers in general, that's great for his confidence. And, Izzo was talking about it this over the weekend, that, he works so hard in practice and he makes them in practice. And so it had been, he believed, a mental thing. But I think I do wonder, and it was great to see it, if Tom Izzo's statement in the Washington Post game about Coen Carr that, hey, I'll die if I'm paraphrasing, but I'll over my dead body before I stop believing and working with Coen Carr. You wonder if that maybe was, he knows that's the case anyway, but when your coach says something like that publicly and backs you that way, that can have a freeing effect. Like, just take some of the load off. Because this stuff, you add in, just forget that, the expectations were that maybe he would do a little more than he's done this year. But I think about it from the perspective of even the way he's being guarded by a lot of these teams. It's just there's so much pressure on his shoulders. There has to be in his head, because he wants to win. He knows his team needs him.
Yeah. He's a captain, productive. Right? Yeah.
And so that's, from that perspective, what happened tonight has got to be really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Logan Hop over on YouTube mentioned Coen's rebounds tonight were awesome. No one's taking that ball from him. That's the one thing too about it. Like, not only is he getting
attacking the ball, absolutely attacking,
just like he does.
He's been doing that for a while. Tonight was particularly great, but he has been doing that of late.
Yeah.
But it was great to see. I don't know that he's had a better game than this. What do you have, 8? So that was great to see as well. That's what I mean. Just every phase of the game, Coen Carr was there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Carson Cooper, who was had 19 points, probably more importantly, 8 for 10 from the field. He missed that one that kind of rolled out, but aside from that, he was really good. 3 for 4 from the line, 7 rebounds, 2 more offensive, had an assist, a couple turnovers, 4 blocks, and a steal. Played 33 minutes and was charged with primarily guarding Evans. I don't know that it's his best game, but it's one of his best games. I mean, certainly from an offensive standpoint,
career high,
so much better. Yeah, I mean, career high, obviously that, but overall game, I don't know.
Yeah, well, career really high great. When you go 8 for 10, that's pretty hard to argue with, right?
Well, yeah.
Offensively, right. I thought he was great, and offensively, it was the best game he's ever played. He did all the stuff around the rim that we see, but he hit another face-up jumper, and then it might have been his last basket, the baseline turnaround. Yeah. That's something we have not. I don't think we've seen that this year.
That's a money ball shot.
That is, yeah, but he's capable of hitting it.
Yeah, no, I mean I saw a money ball. Yeah. That's the only time I've seen it.
Yeah, he's capable of hitting that shot. I mean, he's demonstrated enough that if he goes up from 15 feet, I don't cringe. That's a reasonable shot if he's open. But for him to make that play, like in the flow, to go into that move and drain it, I mean, that's a shot you expect Jaxon to hit, not Carson. And yeah, he was just great. And I thought he did good work defensively in general. 7 rebounds. You can't complain about that. Just overall, yeah, a really right up there with his best games too. And that's the thing. When we talk about, you talk about Jaxon contributing almost nothing. They get comparatively little out of Jordan Scott and Cam Ward compared to what's been going on recently.
And Kurt Tang,
they get nothing.
Yeah.
But then you have, Coen Carr probably had his best game of the year. Jeremy rallied to make it kind of a normal Jeremy game. Coop, maybe his best game of the year. Trey Fort, who we're going to talk about in a second, his best game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it doesn't necessarily work that way for every program, but I know this at Michigan State, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like when they are a championship level team. They have multiple guys, and by multiple, I don't mean 2 or 3. I mean 8 or 9, who on any given night are capable of stepping forward and delivering for you. And that's what we had tonight. I mean, again, you could focus on the guys who didn't do anything, or you could focus on the guys who had season best games.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also impressive. It happened on the road because you don't see it as much with role players. They tend to be better at home. But then for all these guys to come forward, Tim on X mentioned, Carson Cooper's development from 2-star to what he is now, staggering. I can't remember players develop over time like Carson. He's a complete player. So I want you, I don't think that's, I think that's true that he's really impressive what he's become from what sort of, I guess his projections were, I suppose, before when he's getting recruited. But I don't think his story is that unique at Michigan State.
It's not. And here's the thing. It's an accurate statement, in my opinion, if you're talking about the way the player was perceived by the rankings industry. But we talked about it when he committed.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Carson Cooper until then. But when clips started to surface of him, and they like to talk about, he was on the IMGB team and all of that stuff, I don't care. You could see why he was a Big Ten level recruit. It was very simple. It was 2 things. It was he's 6'11" and he can move.
Yep.
And if that is the case, you can be at least a guy that a Big Ten team should take a risk on. And that's exactly what Michigan State did. Now, if you're talking about where a guy went from his freshman year to his senior year, I don't think it's particularly unique. It's great to see, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's unheard of at all. I'm with you on that. I can think of a lot of guys. I can think of guys who took 5 years to really arrive. Goran Suton had struggles early on. You remember the missed layups in Maui?
Yep.
Early on. He was most outstanding player of a regional his senior year. Michigan State went to the national title game. And he was as much a reason for that as anybody. A guy like Drew Namack went from a red shirt as a true freshman and a guy who really struggled to see the floor consistently to a key part of a team that kept the NCAA tournament streak alive when a lot of people didn't think they would, and actually won a game in the tournament when they got there. Oh gosh. I mean, there's so many. I'm
trying to think of
there's a lot. I'd have to think about. Those were the two that came to mind first because they were also bigs. But yeah, it's not an uncommon thing. I mean, you can honestly, on his own team, Jaxon Kohler. Look at Jaxon Kohler's progression from his freshman year to his senior year. It's massive. So it happens a lot, but I don't mean to, I'm not belittling the point at all.
No, I think we agree. It's just, it's a little recency bias. A little bit. You forget.
Because again, there's a teammate of his who has had a very similar progression. Because I can tell you something, as true freshman, Carson Cooper had a better year than Jaxon Kohler did.
And I remember certain people in the media thought that Jaxon Kohler was going to leave the team because he just wasn't cut out for this level of play.
Right. And he worked his ass off and changed that narrative dramatically.
Proved everyone wrong.
But you know, it's so there's a teammate who's had a pretty similar progression.
Let's talk about Trey Ford. So it's interesting that Ford, I am almost certain that there was no plan to have Ford play more than like 2-3 minutes like he's been doing.
No.
But because of foul issues on Scott and Tang, which is weird, they both got 2 fouls early in that second half or first half. He had extended play and he looked kind of shaky the first couple minutes, like what he usually plays. And then he just got comfortable. He sort of went in. No one's hitting shots for Michigan State. I mean, I think they're down 1 or something, and he buried a 12-footer or something like that. Then he hit another one.
Yep.
And he just started suddenly looking comfortable on offense. And then I'll admit I didn't notice any sort of problems on defense, but there probably was one here or there, but certainly nothing super obvious.
Well,
I was going to say he finished with 9 points, 4 for 5 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. Had just 1 turnover, but played 15 minutes and was good out there.
Izzo was particularly down on Kurt Tang tonight defensively,
and he also, his mom.
And he obviously, and he also had. He had foul trouble with Jordan Scott, and then Jordan just wasn't making an impact the way he normally does. And even Devine, who I thought did some really nice things in this game, also had a couple of moments defensively. There was one timeout situation where Izzo was just giving it to Devine when he came off the floor, and it was about the defensive end. So that created the opportunity that nobody else was stepping up, and Trey took it.
Yeah.
And that's another one, man. If you talk about, there's no narrative coming out of this game where there was really a step forward. I don't know if that's true for 2 main reasons. One, Coen Carr, that's the big one. The other one's Trey Ford. I am miles, solar systems away from declaring it corner turned. But what he did, obviously, is show you what he is capable of doing, which we knew. Offensively, Trey Ford is a guy who can go get a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just can. So the question is always, one, what's his efficiency level, which has not been great this year, offensively, I mean. And then how much are you giving up on the defensive end? But, if other guys aren't delivering, then, somebody's got to play those minutes. Unless Izzo's going to, like he was alluding to apparently at practice, unless he's going to put Mex Carey out there. Somebody else got to play those minutes. So
we've met Mex, by the way. You would want him out there. Just
you'd have if you're worried about the height disadvantage they have when Denim Wojcik's on the floor.
I think Nick Sanders would tower over Mex. I'm not sure.
But I think that it can be nothing but good for Trey's mental state, confidence, all of that. And that's a huge part of what's going on. We talked about Coen and how, the way things have gone had to have been affecting him mentally. confidence wise, and you can quadruple that for Trey Fort. He came here, I think, believing that he had every chance to be a starter and a key guy on a championship contending team.
Mm-hmm.
And of late, he's basically getting 2 or 3 minute stints, and that's it. So to have a game like that, and maybe most importantly, it wasn't just that he scored and he shot well, it's that the baskets were meaningful. You said it. The first two in particular came at a time where Michigan State just could not get anything going. And so when you step up and you have moments like that where he can come away from this game knowing that he was a significant part of a win.
Yeah.
That's a big deal for a guy who has struggled the way he has. So, yeah, hats off to Trey. And again, a sign for him and for the Michigan State staff that nobody in this program just gives up. They keep coming. And the coaches keep, as long as you're working, they're going to keep giving him opportunities. They might not be big ones. He's got to seize them when they arrive, but you're going to continue getting those chances. And so big deal for him. Happy to see it.
Really just feels like the Fiddler story again, a second time. Like it seemed like about this time last year that Fiddler started like, hey, he had a game where he kind of contributed a little bit, and suddenly he's like kind of
he's got about he's got about 8 weeks to go for that to be the case.
Well, no, but it's like it feels like that might be
it
could be a turn, right?
It could be, yes.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jaxon Kohler. So 2 points tonight, just 1 for 3 from the field. 0 for 2 from 3. 5 rebounds, just 2 offensive, a couple assists, a turnover, played 20 minutes. He was out there plenty. No one could be happier to go back to East Lansing than Jaxon, I can imagine. He's just got to get things rolling. I imagine just needs to kind of start again on Saturday.
Yeah, kind of a lost trip for Jaxon.
Yeah.
It goes to show you, though, how many teams could win 2 games by an average of 16.5 points with their top scorer and top rebounder really not playing very well.
Yeah, right.
And not contributing much. That says something, right? You don't want to make a habit of it. But yeah, Jackson's got it's just here's what I'll give him credit for in this one. I thought the 1-3 that he took was maybe a wee bit forced.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it would be very tempting. And he had opportunities. There was a time or two where they were swinging the ball around the horn.
Yeah.
And they were backed off him enough that he could have ball stopped and taken a shot. And he didn't. And I think, he said it actually, this is actually 3 games in a row where he's been struggling with the jumper, because he mentioned it after the Indiana game that he said, I could tell I wasn't feeling it tonight. So I think he's just going through one of those periods that most shooters go through, where it's, and to Oregon's credit, I thought they did a reasonably good job of packing it in down low. They played some man, they played a lot of matchup zone. But I thought they made it difficult. Jaxon didn't get many easy one-on-one opportunities on the blocks to maybe try and get going. That didn't happen. So some of it was them. A lot of it was him, obviously. But I think he stayed within himself. Not his best night by a long shot, but that's okay. He's earned a mulligan or 2 in my book.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the one thing about Jaxon, especially with his outside shooting, is we've talked about this before when it comes to like comparing to say like Joey Hauser, the most recent sort of, 4 who was able to hit outside consistently at a rate like he is. He's just a little bit less versatile as far as how he gets to a shot, right? Joey could come across a little curl or something and hit a 3, and just doesn't look like that's Jax's game.
It's harder. Like, it's much harder to generate looks for him because he's very limited. He's going to be limited to pick and pop or kickouts.
Yeah, or trailing 3, like on the
or trailing like 3 too.
Yeah.
Whereas Joey could do all of those things, but he could also, as you say, he could come off screen action. That's a difference. That's a big difference. When you got a guy that you can run stuff for in that way, Michigan State's in a 4-way tie for second. UCLA just held on and won by 2.
Oh my goodness. Breaking news.
Tyler Bilodeau was unbelievable down the stretch. He hit a 3 with about 8 seconds left to win it. Purdue had last possession, just missed. So 4-way tie for second. And we know about
it's almost like someone I know predicting that loss. Like they're due. It was coming.
Well, yeah, Purdue has not been playing very well. They've been winning, but the style points have not been there.
Yeah.
And you kind of felt like it was coming. And look, we know, I'm seeing it last year. That's a tough trip to make. Now, Purdue managed to actually, they stormed the court at Pauley Pavilion. That's kind of embarrassing.
Well, they've never beaten Purdue at Pauley. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. You're UCLA. But anyway, I'll play court storm police in this one. Look, they should have gotten beaten by USC the other night. USC had them and let them off the map. But we saw this last year. We know that's a tough trip. It might not always seem like it. And this UCLA team, up until the night, they needed that one because they didn't really have a great.
They're hungry.
Yet. Yeah. And
just like against Michigan State, is the same thing last year too.
That's a big deal. But that team last year, even by the time that MSU game came up, I knew they were good.
Yeah,
I knew they were good. They had gone through that weird travel-related lull just before that, where Mick Cronin let people have it. But I knew that team was good. I'm not sure how good this team is, but anyway, I digress. Let's back to the most important things, which Michigan State. Were we talking about Jaxon? I guess. It just, as we say, he's earned a mulligan.
He's got the mulligan. Yeah,
and he'll be back on track. I have no doubt.
We'll just go through Jeremy's. Tim just said UCLA hasn't been UCLA in 25 years. That's maybe not entirely true, but probably 10 years or so.
What's that?
The UCLA hasn't been UCLA in 25 years. That's probably a little bit harsh. They were Final Four, 8 years ago or something like that?
45 years. No, they were in the Final Four. They were in the Final Four the year Michigan State played them, the COVID year.
Oh, so
remember? Michigan State played them in a first.
I remember the Aaron Henry. Yeah. So that's 6 years ago.
All those 6'6" guys.
Yeah.
Jaime Jaquez and all that.
Right.
Yeah. Mick Cronin's had good teams there. They're never going to be what they were in the wood because the sport's changed.
Yeah. Right.
But UCLA is not Indiana. That's not even close. I mean, in what was it? 05 to 08 or 04 to 07, Ben Howland took them to 3 straight Final Fours.
Yeah.
That's not fair. They may not be the UCLA of Wooden, but that's generally a good program.
It's probably fair to say the UCLA of 25 years ago wouldn't have stormed the court. Jeremy Fears, 14 points, 5 for 12 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, hit both his free throws, but just 2. 5 assists, no turnovers, a block, 2 steals, played 32 minutes. So kind of like your typical usage that you'd expect from him. Weird game. Someone asked earlier, I'm trying to remember. So Tim is, asking, what do you think's contributed to Fears' slow starts? Well, the only thing I'd say to that is, Jeremy had not a slow start against Indiana. And that was not that long ago. That was a couple games ago when he was the only guy. So no, I agree. This game, he was not great, but it start to start.
Yeah. But it's not a narrative I'd buy into.
Yeah. I think it's just,
I think tonight it was slow, but you know what? The last 10 minutes, big surprise. He was the best player on the floor. And he was the reason that it turned from a game that was still competitive to one where MSU won it going away.
I'd also say defensively, he was strong. I don't think there's any drop off in the first half when they weren't offensively. Their game was not great, but I don't think he was a problem.
Well, and again, and I did explain, I think I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but there was contact 3 times.
Right.
That should have been called for shooting fouls. It was not. So those were 3 of those 7 misses that really shouldn't have been shots from the floor. They shouldn't have counted shots from the floor. He should have been shooting free throws. He might have had 20 points in this game if he'd gotten the calls that he should have gotten and that he typically gets. So, anyway,
Well, it's still impressive. 14 points, really, and not
on
we'd say not sharp game.
Night. It was an off night most of the way.
Really quite a change for him. And then Divine, missed his first couple threes, then he finally hit one. He had a couple. He is so slippery. Those layups that he has, that he just gets in the lane. I don't even know where he finds a crease, but he somehow, it's usually, I feel like it's a lefty reverse or something like that.
He's got to do more of it. He's
so good at that. I don't know why.
Divine attacking the basket is such a weapon, because you're right. He has a knack for finding space and for finishing. I think part of it, I can't remember, he's 6'3". I can't remember what his wingspan is, but he's definitely plus wingspan. I'm going to guess it's at least 6'7". And I think that plus his athletic ability, which people don't always, he's not an explosive athlete the way Carr is, but he's a really gifted athlete too.
Yeah.
So all the physical tools are there. He does have a knack for it, like we're talking about, finding creases, being able to finish on angles, or utilize angles to finish, I should say. I just want to see more of that.
Yeah.
And then
he's slippery. Yeah.
And then that makes him a weapon. You had, who was his lob to? Was that to Cam Ward?
Yeah, he had one to Cam.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, that was as good as the way Jeremy does it. It was brilliant. Looked great. So all of those things together, that's a weapon. I mean, that's a guy who I think is, we talk again about what could change between now and March. Well, one thing that could change is they could get those kind of plays out of Divine maybe a little more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
He's still, I'm not going to say he's gun shy, because he's not really, but I still think he defers maybe a little too often offensively. I think he's got to just be a little more assertive in how he goes about it, because the tools are there, man. I think he's got more to give.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's no question about that. I mean, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He had a couple turnovers, but
he did get some
26 minutes.
Did get
defensively,
some minutes
he's getting better.
Did get some minutes at the point tonight too. Not that Michigan State suffered when Denham Wojcik was on the floor. They were, again, which has been the case the last few times they've played, the minutes that Denham was out there were not a problem. So
and only 3.
I'm not going to harp on it if that continues, but I will note they got, and part of what makes that possible to play Divine at those minutes is if Trey Fort, it's not an accident that Trey Fort's able to hang in there and play a little more, then you can get to Divine at the point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll talk briefly about Kurtang. He's been having a really good run of games, and today kind of an over, because he had 2 fouls and a turnover in 8 minutes. So he just had a rough game. I don't know much more to say about that than hopefully just put it behind him and just move on.
Defense, and he's been making, I thought, at least incremental progress defensively. Took a step back. I'm sure there were more than just one play that got Izzo irate, but one I do remember for sure. They had a play where he was so late on a rotation to what's the kid's name? Lei, the Chinese kid.
The Monkey King?
Lin Wei Lin.
Yeah.
He was, if you were being kind, you'd say he was slow on the rotation. If you were being unkind, you'd say he was lazy. But it was really poor. And so not even a half challenge. And of course, the kid drained it.
Right.
So I think that might have been the moment that Izzo said, I've seen enough.
Well,
I know he saw the floor after that, but not often.
Great when you can get a lesson like that and win by 16. Get that
in
there.
And it helps, you need, that's why Trey Fort was so huge tonight, because they needed him. They needed Divine, because you weren't getting anything out of Jordan. You weren't getting anything out of Kerr. And those guys have been pretty reliable lately. So it's part of what makes this program what it is, that guys step up when needed. They just have a knack for that, and they had a knack for it tonight.
Jordan Scott, the other freshman, 0 for 2 from the field, misses 1 3-point attempt.
Badly.
2 fouls. 9 minutes is one of those just freshman games. Well, again, we'll just kind of throw that tape away. And
look, Jordan Scott,
he wasn't bad. It just wasn't good.
Worry at all. It wasn't happening for him tonight. And it wasn't just the 0 for 2. That's the least of it. It's that we're used to Jordan being a guy, I've said it many times, he's a winning player because he makes winning plays. He makes plays that lead to wins, deflections, rebounds, loose balls, all that stuff. In addition to scoring and rebounding, the stuff that the counting stats. He didn't really find his way into doing any of that tonight. It just didn't happen for him. So,
well, and the great thing about Tang and Scott both having kind of complete dead games is it allowed Trey Ford an opportunity, and he took advantage of it, which might be very valuable going forward. Then we have the other freshman, Cam Ward, just that one bucket that you mentioned, that assist from Divine, 1 for 2 from the field, 4 rebounds, had a turnover, played 16 minutes. Again, seemed fine, solid, just as usual, solid. Just not a very productive offensively, but
I would have liked one thing that frustrated me about this game. And I understand Oregon was packing it in. They were whether they were zone or man, they really wanted Michigan State to take perimeter jumpers, which I don't fault them for. Yeah. But I still thought even against the zone, I thought there were more opportunities to get the ball near the rim into the post, and particularly with Cam. I want to see, that's a development I would like to see as we start moving into the back half of January and into February, where the rubber's going to hit the road. I want to see Cam Ward getting more post touches, more opportunities. Right. And some of that's on him and some of that's on his teammates. But I want to see more of that because I think there's a lot of untapped production there. And we didn't get to see it.
That is going to be when he gets more comfortable in, that just is a comfort level, and that's going to, I think, happen before the end of the season. I think
he's comfortable. I don't think if I have a critique, the offense, it's that they don't always look enough in the post, and I understand it because that has not been where this particular Michigan State team has buttered its bread historically. Jaxon can occasionally do it in there, but we know he struggles with length. Carson is better now than he ever has been, but he's still not really a pure post-up guy. So there's some habits that aren't there. But Cam Ward, I think, can be that. We've talked about it a fair amount. I think he can be a really, really good low post player in time. But I think there's stuff to get out of him now. I think they just have to be patient enough to look for it.
Yeah. And then finally, Justin McCullough played 7 minutes, had an offensive rebound, just missed his 1 3-point attempt. Had an assist.
Kind of a nondescript performance for Jesse, but so it goes for young players.
Yep. Again, happens in a 16-point win. You can't get too upset about that. I mean, against a real team. It's not like 16-point win against Tomato Can, right? Although Oregon's close to a tomato can, but they definitely show they've got some pieces that can do something.
Well, look, there are 2 McDonald's All-Americans on that floor for them. Now, how much that counts when those guys have a couple of years of college play under their belts and haven't played at quite that level. Okay. But the point is, they've got some talent. They don't have enough talent to compete most nights in the Big Ten or to win most nights in the Big Ten. But, again, they just played the greatest college basketball team we've ever seen on the weekend. And they led at the half and pushed them to the very end before Michigan pulled away in the end to win by 10. So that was this same group. So, I think the thing is, even a truly bad Big Ten team has got some guys typically that can play. It's just they don't have enough of them. And usually by the end of 40 minutes, something's broken down, kind of like we saw tonight. Yep. This would be a standard issue kind of game for a bad Big Ten team where they hustle and they fight and they claw and they hit some shots you don't think they ought to hit. And they hang around and hang around and hang around, and then eventually you blow the doors off.
Yeah. Well, one place you don't have to worry about talent, of course, are the Brothers Just Gutters. Those guys can take care of your gutters, and they'll make sure that you don't have any problems. So make sure they come out and take care of it, whether it's leaking problems or downspouts, whether it's your home or your business. The Brothers Just Gutters can come out even today, out in this cruddy weather, and they can get up there and take care of those things, because heavens knows you don't want to be out there on your on a ladder by your right now. I can't even imagine such a thing. So have the experts do it. They get 10% off as a listener of the show. If you just mentioned Final Four when you get your estimate, head on over to our support page at tffinots.com/support. Contact the Brothers Just Gutters. They will do a great job, and great pricing and great people. All right, so they sponsor the player that Michigan State needs to keep in the gutter, and that was Kwame Evans, who we thought was primarily going to be Carson Cooper in charge of that. He finished with 6 points, 3 for 13 from the field, 0 for 3 from the three-point line. Great defense on his free throws. He missed both of those. He had 4 rebounds, one of them offensive, had an assist, 2 turnovers, a steal, a couple blocks. He definitely was impactful in the first half. The second half, he just completely disappeared.
Yeah, a really, really nice defensive job on him, because he is a guy. I mean, the knock on him has been consistency, but he was a starter on a good, NCAA tournament level Oregon team last year, and he was a McDonald's All-American. So we know that the talent is in, and he's been productive this year too. So to hold him to 3 for 13, that's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah.
That's how you want it. That's what you want to see. So very much in the gutter.
And if you want to see better out your windows, make sure you contact the Squeegee Squad at Grand Rapids. Those guys will get them squeaky clean. You can see everything. You can watch the snowfall out the window. It's beautiful. And then just imagine how you have to get your snowblower out. I've had mine out 3 times in the last couple of days. Contact the Squeegee Squad today. They will come out even in the winter, and they'll clean those windows, whether it's your business or your home. Troy and his team recommend you do it twice a year, or so you can get it scheduled today. Then a great thing is, as a listener of the show, you get 15% off. You just mentioned Final Four, just like with the Brothers That Just Gutters. You can head on over to our support page at tffinots.com/support to set it up. And of course, they sponsor the player who cleans glass best. And I had Kohler, who had a very down game, but thankfully I had Carr. So I ended up with 13. I think you had Cooper and Ward. And so I win by a couple. That puts me up 10-8 with 12 to go. You are going to have to start looking at where you're going to get those helium balloons to do part of the fight song stuff. I mean, it's too early, but
a little early for that. That's the kind of hubris that ends up coming back to bite you.
Pride comes before the fall, right?
But that's right. Haven't you learned anything from Mark D'Antonio? Yeah, this was. I mean, I think pretty obviously this was decided by the Carr Ward choice.
Yeah.
I got it wrong. I could have had either. I went with Cam, and Cam, 4 rebounds, not a bad game, but if you told me that he only had 4 coming in, I would have thought I was in trouble. Because I wouldn't have expected Coen to get 8, but I wouldn't have expected Jax. I would have probably expected Coen and Jax to be flipped. 8 and 5. And but I would have figured I might be in some trouble. So that's how it goes.
It's just that's right. Yeah, when you don't have Jax, you're just trying to steal something, right? That's pretty much what it comes down to. So
yeah.
All right. And
but the other way of looking at it is I lost on a night where Jax had 5 rebounds.
You had an opportunity. Yes, it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, the 5 keys of the game brought to you by Nudge Printing. Friends, if you need cool apparel, like I've got this full zip up hoodie from with a Tiff Knots logo, you can head on over to nudgeprinting.com/win. There you can find a drawing for a free hoodie. That's not the zip up one. And then you can also find our gear, and you can go to the rest of the Nudge Printing stuff and see any of their other things they have that are Spartan apparel. Huge, massive selection. Anything you want to get, want to pick something up for Valentine's Day for that special someone. Great way to do it. And it makes them put a smile on their face, especially when you see how great quality it is. So head on over to nudgeprinting.com. You get 20% off if you type in TFFINOTS at checkout for the coupon code. So do that today. You'd be very glad you did. Also, this is just a reminder too, you can head on over to slido.com slido.com. And then for the hashtag, enter in TFFINOTS. You can vote in our player of the game brought to you by Fanduel. We'll talk about that later in a little bit. So head on over there now. They appreciate it. Get some votes in to see. I'd be curious to see what everyone thinks the player of the game is for this game, because I think it could go a couple different ways. All right. So the first key of the game is play the game, not the opponent. It's funny. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. You could almost argue that they sort of were playing down to Oregon's level the first half of the game. I mean, a lot of that was Oregon was playing really hard and then playing kind of tricky. They're playing some tough defense, at least making things difficult for Michigan State. They weren't able to really get too much going offensively. But anyway, it was, tight game for 25, 30 minutes.
I think you can. I don't think it was that Michigan State came in and didn't respect their opponent, because I know better than that. The coaching staff isn't going to allow that. But I did feel, I mentioned it. It felt like a Tuesday night in the Big Ten on the road. That's what it felt like for most of it. And what I mean by that is there are times in the course of a season where you are playing an outmanned team, a team that you're decisively better than, that you should beat easily, and you don't. And it's just because that's what happens in those scenarios sometimes, that you're not at your sharpest. I don't think it was taking them lightly, but I clearly don't think Michigan State played at nearly the level of sharpness they would aspire to for the first 30 minutes of that game. And then the last 10, they absolutely did, and that was that. But, it goes without saying, you can't play that way against Michigan, against Illinois, against Purdue, against Wisconsin, even Nebraska. If you see them again, you can't get away with that. These guys know that, but it's disappointing, because one thing I think this group has been pretty good at thus far is, for the most part, not, they had a little stretch in December where, 4 games where they probably didn't play as sharply as you would have liked to have seen. Other than that, they've been pretty good in that department. I thought the other night against Washington, that was a steady performance. Indiana, maybe you were a little inconsistent there, but you blew their doors off down the stretch. USC, you blew them out. I mean, they've proven that I think they're a reasonably mature team in that way. But I do have to say, just in terms of the sharpness that they didn't play with for stretches tonight, long stretches, that was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, they looked like a team that was playing a team they knew wasn't great, and they were on the road the second game. And I mean, not an excuse, just explanation, I suppose. Second key to the game was the glass. This is interesting. So Michigan State, we knew that Oregon is a pretty good offensive rebounding team, really terrible defensive rebounding team. Michigan State, of course, is elite at both ends. They overall, Michigan State had a 31-24 edge rebounding, grossly. 6 offensive rebounds for Michigan State, 7 for Oregon, which sounds like Oregon did really great on the boards, except Oregon missed so many more shots. They only had a 23% offensive rebounding rate. But Michigan State with a sub 30% rebounding rate with just 6. Yeah. Second chance points, 8-7 edge of Michigan State, so basically tied there. So really unable to really get much done. I mean, I think we both expected Michigan State to get quite a bit done on the boards, and didn't happen this game.
The worst rebounding performance on the offensive end, really, because the defense basically did. That's a good
23 is amazing
rebounding team. Fine. Yeah, I don't have complaints with that. But on the offensive end, that's the most disappointing performance we've seen in quite a while. Michigan pounded that team. Yeah. Michigan is not nearly as good a rebounding group as Michigan State. They're just not. And so there's no excuse for it. It just didn't happen. And that's, again, very disappointing. Some of that might be attributable to Jaxon Kohler only playing 20 minutes. That didn't help. But that can't be an excuse. He did have 2 offensive rebounds when he was out there, so he was tied with Carson for the team lead, even though he only played 20 minutes. But Michigan State is a much better rebounding team than that, and they need to play that way.
So the next key to the game is inside the arc. And so this is interesting. So Michigan State was, by my numbers, are 21 of 29 from 2.
Yep.
Which is 72.5%. So
phenomenal.
Impressive. I mean, then you look at it like, Trey Fort was 4 for 4, I think, inside of, I think he was. Yep. And then Carson Cooper was 8 of 10. Those are all 2-point shots. And anyway,
you get up to 2s late.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. And yet again, an indicator of Michigan State having made significant improvement in an area where, frankly, they really needed to. And it's shown up now over the last 5 or 6 games that they're doing this. So I want to take a quick look.
I was going to say, I was wondering what the 2-point is. I have him as 102nd right now in Bartorvik, so that's probably around
103rd on Ken Palm. That's a dramatic.
Because they were, 200 or something 6 games ago?
I don't know if they ever got into the 200s, but they were close. And, that's a big deal. I mean, if this team can somehow, slide into, say, even the top 75 or so before it's all said and done, that's going to be really meaningful, because what it will mean, in fact, is that the way they are currently playing and have been playing for a while is actually far better than that, because they were coming from such a hole. Yeah. Tonight, I'll tell you, we talk about it coming in a variety of ways usually. They didn't get a lot done in transition. They didn't get much at all done on second chance points. So it was all just purely 2-point shooting from the floor, making shots around the rim when they're there to be made, making mid-range jumpers, all of that stuff. And they did a very, very good job.
The fourth key to the game is transition, as you just mentioned. Michigan State had an edge, 10-2 edge over Oregon, because Oregon got, that one layup, I suppose, off a turnover, and that was about it. So not a ton. Michigan State, I feel like they got most of it. It felt like the first half, and then Oregon sort of just figured them out and kind of shut them down as far as
I don't think they figured anything out. I think that, one of the reasons why Michigan State was as dominant on the defensive glass, we talked about this in the Washington game, but it was very clearly apparent to me in this one. Look, Dana Altman's a smart guy and a good coach. He's been around a long time. He made, to me, it seemed he made a conscious decision, as I thought he might, and as we talked about, we're going to prioritize. I know we rebound the ball well offensively, but if we try that and we don't get it done, and there's a good chance we won't against the number 1 defensive rebounding team in America, even if we're trying, let's just cut our losses. Let's prioritize floor balance. And that does 2 things. One, you're not giving up easy baskets. The second thing, though, is you're controlling the pace of the game. And they did that. Oregon won that battle. Michigan State wanted to play this game faster than it was played. And they weren't able to, in part, because Oregon did a very good job of, especially after the opening minutes, of limiting Michigan State's transition opportunities, because they balanced the floor very well. So that was all really, really important. And, hats off to Dana Altman, who, as I say, is a good coach. He's been doing it a long time. He had his guys prepared in that way. They were able to execute that in ways that not every team can.
Right. Well, it's always easier slowing down teams and kind of taking the air of the ball than it is speeding up usually.
It is, but to deal with what Michigan State does on its break is never an easy thing.
Yeah.
And that's, I give him credit for getting a pretty ragtag group to play pretty disciplined basketball in that way.
Yeah, and the fifth and final key is defending without fouling. This is one of those. It was weird, because you could say definitely Michigan State I mean, the 10 fouls called in the entire game, which is pretty impressive. Although I feel like most of them were shooting fouls, or a lot of them were, at least it seemed certainly in the first half.
Oregon never got into the penalty. So yes, they were.
Yeah.
But they only shot 11 free throws at home, especially. That's doing the job. And I wanted to raise something about this. That's interesting to me. The broadcast team said that when they talked to Tom Izzo, he was talking about how this is nowhere near his best defensive team.
Right.
Even they said, but he's saying that even though they're the number one defensive efficiency team in America. I think I got a pretty good idea why he's saying that. And the reason, and by the way, they're still number one after tonight. And the offense is up to 53rd. So that continues to
inching up
slowly. I think the reason he says that is, to him, he's looking, and I'm guessing, but I think I'm right about this. He's looking at 3-point percentage against their 33rd, 2-point percentage against their 34th. Yeah. Those are good numbers. Those are really, really good, solid numbers. They're not elite. And he's had some teams that were elite in that way. But the teams he's had that were elite in that way usually didn't combine it with being the best defensive rebounding team in the country and not fouling. So I think this team's, it doesn't feel like a great defensive team. I think he feels like it's a good to very good one, not a great one. That would be my guess. And I think that's why. But the numbers tell us that they are elite, and it's because they're doing some things. Even the defensive rebounding, we've talked about it, not a constant for Michigan State over the years that they've been anywhere near this good.
Right.
Offensive rebounding has been much more consistent over the years. But that they do that, and then especially that they're doing all this without putting people on the line, that's going to help you be a very efficient defensive team, which just simply put is the points you're giving up per possession. And that's what it's about, the bottom line. So you can talk about how effective you are in terms of forcing misses on shots that the opponents take, but if you're fouling them a lot or you're giving up second chances frequently, some of that goes out the window. This team has found a combination of very good shot defense and elite defense, or near elite. I guess the fouling thing is not elite. They're 41st, but by Michigan State standards, they're elite.
Yeah.
And that the overall package is, great, fantastic, best in the country.
Yeah. So let's talk about FanDuel. So make sure you head on over to FanDuel Sportsbook, head over to your the App Store. Make sure you add it, and you can get, when you bet some money, you get some, they actually double it and stuff. And so it's actually pretty nice if you're interested in adding a little extra juice to the game. I have to admit, so after we went through the odds last time, I put some money down on Michigan State when it came to
winning
a Big Ten, just because the odds were so good. I thought I think we said there were 18 to 1 odds. I can't remember. I've got to look back.
Yeah,
but
it's ridiculous.
And I haven't checked to see what they've moved to now. So now that Michigan State is just only behind Nebraska, and that's of course the one thing with Nebraska is they have the tiebreaker. The way those work is that if there is a tie, it's basically use a Big Ten seeding. So whatever the tiebreakers are and stuff, that's the person they could just.
So there will only be one winning bet. Yeah.
Correct for FanDuel, which makes it easy, than trying to have something else. So anyway, so that's how it works. So I think that's probably why the odds are a little bit against Michigan State, because they, go on the road to Mackey. They have to play Michigan twice. They don't have the tiebreaker with Nebraska. I mean, imagining that, and the metrics, don't love them as much as the other teams.
They combine because they play those games on the road. The metrics are going to tell you that they'll lose them. Whereas, if they got a home game against Nebraska, they'd be favored.
Right.
And they don't. And if you got a home game against Purdue, I'd have to look at it, but they might be favored. They're slight underdogs against Michigan at Breslin as of right now, which If that stays as the line that they're underdogs in that game, hammer it for Michigan State. I'm telling you.
Well, you did well tonight.
Michigan is not winning that game, people. They're not.
Yeah.
They might win at Chrysler. They're not winning at Breslin. Book it.
We definitely got the line right on this game because we said if it's 10, hammer it. It was, but again, it was a little close for a while.
Well,
so I'm sure you sweated a little bit.
That's why they play 40 minutes.
That's right. That's right. You game plan for 40 exactly. And so a couple of quick questions that came through, which I thought were pretty interesting. Couple comments here. So the first is from Logan Hop, 9910. Do you guys believe this team is better than last year? I mean, I think I've said this before. I do think they're better. And the thing about this year's team is I think they have the potential to be a lot better than last year's team. What do you think?
I think at this stage of the season, they are better. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be better by the time March rolls around. And I keep going back to something we've touched on a few times, which is, at this point in the season, Jace had not become the Jace that we all think of, not just yet. Still was a very good player and an important piece, but he wasn't going out dropping 20 a night.
Right.
So when you ask me on January 20th or 21st now, which one is better, I would go with this team. I think this team is better defensively, which I did not believe was possible, but it is a fact. It's a better rebounding team, which I thought maybe would be the case, but definitely is. And offensively, it's getting there. It's not there yet, but I cannot tell you how encouraged I am by what we've seen over the last 5 games or so with their 2-point shooting.
Yeah.
It is a remarkable turnaround.
It's amazing.
It's a necessary one because of the way Michigan State plays. It really does matter.
And we know that Izzo listens to the show here and he takes our advice.
Well, I just think I think a big part of it is just guys are hitting the shots that they ought to hit. Jeremy Fears is hitting shots that he should hit. And Izzo talked about, I heard him the other day, talked about how Jeremy's been working on those shots. He's been working on those floaters. He's been working on his game at or around the rim and using the glass more frequently, which we touched on the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things. And Carson is finishing better. That's a big, big bump. I just think in general, they're finding ways to convert those. And again, it wasn't so much the case today, but the transition game and second chance points on offensive rebounds is also helping most nights, just not so much tonight. So that's a big deal. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible. Look, I think without a doubt, this team still has everything to play for, by which I mean a number 1 seed.
Sure.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
It would be crazy to think not. I mean, they are tied for second, 1 game out of the lead in the best conference in America, certainly at the top, in my opinion, in the Big Ten. Why would you think if they win the Big Ten, guess what? They're going to be a number 1 seed.
Right. Yeah. And I totally forgot. So the Fanduel player of the game against Oregon. So who did you have as they're basically 75% and 25%. Who do you think would your player of the game for Michigan State?
It's a tough one. This is one of the tougher ones we've had.
Because so Cooper and Carr are the ones that got votes.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, they're the two candidates. I'm gonna say Carson by a whisker, just by a hair, because he scored more than Coen, and he had both played well defensively, but the fact that he was guarding Kwame Evans goes 3 for 13, and Carson played 33 minutes, so he was out there a lot.
Yeah.
I give it to Carson barely.
Yeah, I would do the same. I mean, I think maybe the one that's most important going forward might be Carr's. It's sort of like, this is the
yes.
But as far as that game, I think it probably would be his. Let's see. So crazy how this team grinds teams down the second half. Do you think it's adjustments at halftime or just effort or something else? What do you think? This is from Shea, 45-36.
I mean, I think they do make adjustments. I think they were a little better attacking the zone in the second half. But no, I think the single biggest factor is what it always is historically for Michigan State. It's depth.
Yeah, right.
It's Michigan State. When people, I was telling somebody this just today. It amazes me. There are still people that will look at a box score and see that Bennett Sturts plays 38 minutes. Say, why can't Jeremy Fears play 38 minutes?
Right.
Say, well, because Michigan State asks different things of Jeremy Fears than Iowa asks of Bennett Sturts. I mean, Christ, Iowa puts him off the ball a lot.
Yeah.
To conserve energy. Michigan State doesn't do that. So the priority has always been every guy that's on the court at any given moment is fresh, has energy, can play as hard as Michigan State Tom Izzo demands them to play, right?
Yep.
And when you are able to do that, it is not going to be surprising that in the last 8-10 minutes of a game, you have a distinct advantage. And the other team starts to wilt. They start to make more mistakes than they did before because physical exhaustion often leads to reduced mental sharpness. Shots are short all of a sudden. You're maybe a half second late defensively compared to where you were in the first 30. All of those things and more. And so it's not a surprise. There are teams, most of the teams that are at the top of the Big Ten with Michigan State right now have a good amount of depth. I mean, Michigan has a lot of depth. Purdue has maybe even a little more depth than they usually do.
Yeah.
Illinois, well, they had a big loss today, but that's still a team that can rotate some bodies in. Really, the only team in the lead pack that doesn't go very deep is Nebraska, and so far they've been able to avoid it biting them. But
yeah.
So Michigan State, my point is Michigan State's going to get tested. I'm not sure how much of an advantage they're going to have against some of the better teams in that way, but they might. Because the other element is it's not just guys being fresh, it's also Michigan State's physicality for 40 minutes. And if you're paying attention to coaches, you should be picking up on the theme that it's been pretty much universally acknowledged that Michigan State's the most physical team in this league.
Yeah.
And that's not a surprise either, but it's fact. And that has an effect too. So I think it's depth in general and then Michigan State's physicality. That's why you're seeing it.
Then Air Mays just mentioned this when MSU plays defense like they did tonight. I tend not to worry. They're very solid tonight. And I tend to agree. I mean, that's sort of like we talk about as far as how important the defense is. It allows you to win any game. You still have to score, obviously, and so that's always a concern. But at least you're within. You can a couple possessions then you're going to be a team that's going to win more often than you're going to lose just because if you're keeping them close.
Well, you're not going to get blown out. I mean, Michigan, even in the 2 losses they've taken, Michigan State was right there.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But but on a night where you really struggle offensively, yeah, it means you're in the game, but it might mean you're in a game as opposed to one where you're
right.
comfortable,
Yeah.
But I agree in general. I mean, I think when you defend the way Michigan State does, that's why I think all this, I'm amazed every time I hear it. And maybe it's going to take another week or two. Maybe it's going to take Michigan State lowering the smack on Michigan.
They have to beat Michigan and Purdue to make
probably.
Illinois.
They got to beat Michigan at Breslin. If they beat Michigan at Breslin, you will see the narrative change based on that.
Right.
Yep. That's probably what it's going to take. But this idea that there's separation, get the hell out. Yeah. No. And one of the main reasons for that is Michigan State is so good defensively and so good on the glass. When you do those things at the level they do them, you are a contender for real, full stop, no qualifications. That's the truth.
And finally, from Tim, can you look at this team and provide any harsh criticism in any area? I mean, I think the one I think that is concerning to me is the free throw shooting. It has gotten worse.
I agree.
And that's when you lose games shooting free throws like that. I mean, they got away with it today, shooting 5 of 9 or something like that. But you're going to lose some games, and especially since it was such a strength last year. It's kind of surprising that it's so bad this year, because even players who were shooting better last year.
Yes,
Jeremy's much better than last year, so that's a change and positive. But Carr is so much worse than he was last season.
And Coop's been getting maybe a little better, but still maybe a tick down from where he was at the end of last season. Yeah, and it's surprising. And let's keep in mind they lost some guys who shot free throws exceptionally well. All three of those guards were very, very good free throw shooters.
Yeah, Trey and
last year. Yeah, Fiddler was a good free throw shooter when he would get those opportunities.
Right.
So they did lose something that I don't think the guys who have come in are not at the same level who replace those guys as free throw shooters. Yeah, I would agree. That's probably the biggest. I think they still need to keep this progression of shooting inside the arc the way they have been. That's a must. But we've been seeing good progress there, so it's unfair of me to say, yeah, that's the big problem. It would be if they backslide at all. But if they keep up with this current trend, then it would definitely be free throw shooting. No question.
Yeah, and the only other thing
with turnovers.
I was going to say that'd be sort of like a very minor problem, because it's not really a big problem most games.
Well,
it's been a little bit worse recently, but
here's where it could be. You do have some games against a team like Illinois, for example, that is not quite as good as Michigan State in rebounding, but pretty damn close.
Right.
If you have a game where that's more or less a draw, but there's a significant turnover differential, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
So that's where it could come to bite you. I don't think you can dismiss it. That's definitely up there as well.
All right. So I think we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure we're going to get Dom on. It's been about over a month, and we're going to get we have a lot more clarity, I guess, as far as the brackets go. We'll get an idea for Michigan State. It lands the rest of the Big Ten. So join in live around 9-ish, 8:30-ish, probably 9-ish. And then we'll be back after that with our pregame for the Maryland game, which is coming up. So really appreciate you guys hanging in there. Continue supporting the show. Head on over to our support page, Final Four on the schedule.com/support, and visit Fanduel, Squeegee Squad of Grand Rapids, Nudge Printing, and Brothers Just You Gutters. Fantastic sponsors. You can also, of course, sponsor the show as well if you want to do that. Links are there. So until next time, the Final Four is on the schedule.